Right, so Donna, you've got Donna Still with us today. Donna is from Donna Still Life Coaching. What is a life coach? Let us know, come on, we need to know.
A life coach is someone who is a guide. They're not someone who tells you what to do. They're someone who will draw out from you.
So like a business coach?
Yeah, it's very similar to a business coach. Business coach doesn't necessarily have to have been in business, but they do need to be able to ask pertinent questions to be able to draw out the information from you.
That's good. How did you get into this field then, of being a life coach?
It's quite a long story. How long we got?
We got it.
Yeah. In 1995, I started training as a painter and decorator.
Wow.
And after working in the care industry while my children were small, and when I finished the training, so I worked nights in an old people's home and took the kids to school, went to college, did the training for painting and decorating, and when I finished I tried to get a job and I couldn't, because no one wanted to employ a mother of 4 young children who needed
Oh my God.
who needed to do the school run. Right? It just wasn't going to happen.
You must be exhausted just finishing the school run, come on.
And so I set up on my own as a painter and decorator, and I would go to people's houses, look at the work they needed doing, but I couldn't tell them how much I was going to charge them. The money aspect just wouldn't come out of my mouth, and I'd go bright red, I'd break out in a sweat, and would really just get like huge
hurdles.
It was massive, and growing up, money was my parents never spoke about money. It was just never even on that.
As is totally the opposite.
Yeah.
We spoke about money all the time. I think it's an English thing, isn't it, with people?
Sometimes.
Not wanting to talk about money. They'll say all about their services and they say it's the very last thing, won't they?
So it's, people can be quite embarrassed though, can't they?
Yeah.
You know, it's
Oh no,
like,
get it out of the way first.
You know, I'm going to charge so and so.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, is that okay?
Yeah, don't apologise.
I mean, I was as a care assistant working full-time nights at the time. I was earning £80 a week, and when I went to do the decorating, I wanted to charge £80 a day, and so like there was a huge disconnect within me, like and no confidence to ask for the money. So I used to go away and write a really detailed quote, and I mean really detailed, for every room, every
price.
Yeah, and I was absolutely justifying my whole it being, like the whole thing. So, and then I post it to them, because email wasn't used so like it is today, and someone said to me, like, I was just, I don't know how, but a person said to me, oh, NLP was really good for being confident.
And NLP is?
Neuro-linguistic programming. So it's really about reprogramming the neurology and the way the mind works and the language. And so I ended up on a weekend free diploma training in central London, and from that I was so engaged in that I ended up doing the whole NLP practitioner and master practitioner and the trainer.
Wow.
Which was I mean, it was amazing, but I never did it to do it as a job to train other people. I did it for my benefit, for me to be able to.
But you fitted all that in around 4 kids as well.
Yeah, and working.
Wow.
So I was still working full time as a painter and decorator. So very quickly I ended up going from charging £80 a day to being quite happy to charge £120 a day. And by the time I'd finished in 2010, I was charging out at £250 a day, which was,
It's huge growth as well, isn't it? Huge growth in you from what the courses that you've done as well.
But the impact of doing the NLP meant that I was regularly asked to train young people in painting and decorating. So I spent a lot of time training NEETs, so not in education and training. The government call them NEETs, and they're 16 to 19-year-olds, and a lot of them had zero confidence. They had zero skills in anything other than lots of
So your coursework would have come in really handy then, wouldn't it? Building them up. And,
Yeah.
So that's when you need it most at that age as well, isn't it?
I'm not kidding you. There would be young girls would turn up and they'd have their heels on. They come to do decorating, right? They'd have heels on and nails out here, and I would give them a sanding block and a pair of overalls, and they would be mortified at that.
What, they had to get dirty?
And at the end of it, they would either go to a training centre and carry on and do an apprenticeship, or they would get a job in decorating but with a bigger firm because they were youngsters.
And back in the old YTS scheme.
Yeah.
YTS,
Did you do a YTS?
No, never.
I did a YTS, yeah, I did it.
Good things back then.
At Stone Lodge Farm.
Did you?
In Stone, yeah. They, I was the first.
What was the YTS for people that don't know?
It was called the Youth Training Scheme. But
YTS.
so I did it at Stone Lodge Farm, and I never forget that because they were a working farm, and they used to have children from inner London come and
to see the countryside.
To see the countryside because it's so far away, and because I was working in the stable, and they got like these shy horses which were like
massive,
like this high on the back, and one of them decided that it was gonna have a pee, this horse, and there was this little 5-year-old, and I'm not kidding you, the horse's was like it extended from like the dangly that big to this big, and their faces, because it's like a telescope, isn't it? Like telescope. It is, it's like, and honestly, and because
this is what the countryside's really like.
It peed down there.
It peed on the floor, and the kids was all like and laughing because they'd never seen anything like that before. It was so fun.
You don't get that in Croydon, do you?
No, you don't. and when they had their lunch, the goats, it was constantly trying to steal their lunch boxes, and it would run off. The goats would run off with their lunch boxes and eat the box and the sandwich. Yeah,
bless you.
And they'd be standing there crying.
Bring back YTS, come on. Instead of getting into all this student debt, bring back YTS, where you left school and you actually got qualified, and then you could go and I think you got accepted into the job or not, didn't you?
Yeah, it was funny.
Yeah,
but so that was my personal experience.
So I'm a huge business book fan. Both of us, all three of us here, have Audible, which we listen to in the mornings and when we're driving. So what's your best business book? What would you recommend along the life coaching lines?
Well, there's two that I would highly recommend, and they're not really business books, but they are more personal development books. And one is The Power of Awareness by Neville Goddard, who and it can be a bit goddy if you're not that way inclined. He talks a lot about God and spirituality, but it's the awareness that we have of ourselves that's really good. And Brené Brown's Daring Greatly, which is where she shares about how being vulnerable and about sharing your truth and about being authentic and having the courage to state, I'm not okay. And
I think there's a lot of people guarded, isn't there?
Yeah.
I'm a heart on my sleeve girl, and Sarah quite often tells me off for telling too many people too much about me.
And over-emoting.
Yeah.
I think it's just a protective thing, isn't it?
But I think that, I think that can either go against you or for you, can't it? It's just that people know everything then. Not everything, but people can know too much about you, can't they? And they can use that to their advantage or not. I don't give a toss.
It can make you vulnerable to being manipulated if you share.
But I know I'm much stronger than a lot of people, so come and try it. Bring it, come on.
So Donna, what tips do you have on anxiety attack? Because I know quite a few people. One of my friend's daughters in particular, who she's at university at the moment, but she suffered with anxiety for a number of years, and I think it's something now that is more recognised as well. So what tips do you have for someone that suffers?
First of all, come to my breath awareness classes.
Okay.
That would be a good thing. That I ran here at Destine previously.
Yeah.
And
what's the breath awareness?
So the breath awareness is what teaches you how to change your state in a certain situations. So, for example, we had the young teenage girls, and there was exercises that I taught, which helped one of the young girls there to actually avoid having a panic attack at school.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So what I did was just teach them how to physically change the state, because when we go into an anxious state, we are all in our heads. And if you notice that your breathing is all up in the shoulders and in the high chest, and when our anxiety levels are high and our breathing is high up in the chest, we don't get enough oxygen to our brain, and so we can't think straight.
You can be quite lightheaded, and can't you?
So a lot of people who are in an anxious state do say that they are very lightheaded, or they're so the technique that I taught them was to it's a bit like a fitness exercise, but it's called the heart breath, and I could do it here.
Yeah, go on, give us a show.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Are we going to do it with you?
And we could do.
Are we? We're not saying no.
No.
Go on, let's do it. Sit down. Yeah, go on.
So essentially, it's like you put your arms up and bring your arms down. So, and as you're doing that, you put a leg up. So you've got
we can't
like
do that.
you can't do it that. So it's so arm up. And what you're doing is bringing the breath all the way down. And normally
you don't get the same effect when you're sitting, do you?
No.
Yeah.
And when you bring the breath all the way down to the belly, after it being up in the chest and the shoulders, you end up feeling much more grounded. And at worst, you'll be laughing, because you'll be like, and so what?
Where do you go and do this? In the toilets, away from
in
the train.
So
Or in front of your
interestingly,
At the moment, yeah.
so the two girls that came, what the feedback that they gave me was the friend took the young girl into their art cupboard it was, and they were both doing it together. She guided her through the exercise to be able to then change her state. And it was the first time they were 15, 16, weren't they? So since she'd been at school, she regularly had panic attacks, and that was the first time that she had not actually gone into a full-blown panic attack.
Wow.
So that's
good for a
something.
friend being there.
Yeah.
So that's something that you would, if you know that you're on the verge of, just to kind of kick it in from there, or is it?
Yeah.
You might be in mid-flow and then it's a case
To not
of
let it get to the next level.
Yes. Ideally, not to let it get
Right.
to the next level. I would say get your friends, if you've got some close friends that are with you as well. If they recognise when you're the signs of when you're getting into that anxiety state, then they can then say, "Come on, let's go and do the heart breath."
Right.
And I get a lot of people who have used that to really just change the state, because that's essentially what we need to do, is just change our physical state. It's not enough to just change the mental state.
I
It's
do
got to be
a
changing
Tony
in-
Robbins one, which is the warrior one.
Yeah.
But that's all about, I can change my state really quick, you know, just when you're driving. I think getting in the car after an evening, when you finish like 10 hours in the office and going home, like singing on the way home, change your state. It gets all of the office stuff off of you before you go and walk
It's
into
like
the
a
door.
distraction, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
you say, even
But
like,
it is, it's taking your mind to a different level, isn't it?
But you have to take your body with you. It's not enough to just take the mind.
Right.
And I think that's what gets missed in a lot of, you know, like if you were to just sit and do mindful breathing, which is amazing for calming down, but for a lot of people it's not enough to just sit and focus.
We're very lucky. We've got boxing gloves and a boxing thing behind. We could take each other. We could take that
giving
body. Yeah, no, there isn't. Sarah does it before she does credit control. So I'm going to ask you. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. We've done loads of courses with him and Dee. What's been your experience of working with Tony Robbins then?
So
How tall is he? Is he big?
yeah, it's massive.
Is he?
It is massive. Yeah, makes.
How tall are you?
5'1".
And 1.
5'1.5" actually. But yeah, no, he's over 6 foot. It's
Wow.
huge. But he's you know, he's like, it works out. He's got a fit body, and he's like,
Would you?
no,
I'm
no.
gonna ask. I'm always gonna ask that question.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no.
So yeah, what was he like? What's the big man like?
Well, I was on a crew and then worked with the team that works with him. So it's more about the. He came and spoke to us, but mostly he wasn't. I didn't find him as open and as like encompassing as some of the others, like Bob Proctor. Working with Bob Proctor, he was much more personable and much more you're all on the same level, whereas with Tony, he was like, he's here and you're there. Do you know what I mean?
Like
It was
admin stuff.
yeah.
You're right down there, Donna.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. From memory, but yeah.
Did you get a lot? Did you learn a lot from him from being on that team?
Yeah, a massive amount. I mean, the especially like doing the crew events on the training. So the in-person UPW, Unleash the Power Within. And taking people and holding the space for people to go through that Dickens process.
Yeah.
That do you know? Have you done the Dickens process?
No.
Part of the training.
No.
So essentially, what he does is he takes people to the deepest pain point of not changing. So where they would be in 5 or 10 years. Yeah, the worst things in 5 or 10 years if you don't make the change. So, and then you get people that are having anxiety attacks. They're going into. Sometimes they would go into psychotic breakdowns and all sorts of and then he would take them back the other way, you know, so that if you do take the actions that you've written in your journal, then you will.
And they're just like little steps, aren't they? They're not massive. It's just paying attention to little things, isn't it?
Yeah.
And tweaking and.
Yeah. So then it would take people the other way, and then we'd be facilitating that as well. But it was pretty intense. The negative aspect of it.
And that's what he wants you to go through. He wants you to change your state, doesn't he?
Yeah, because it's like people only make a change for 2 reasons: an emotional impact, or they make the conscious decision, and then they have to do it through constant spaced repetition.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is making it easier for people because they then get to that place of pain, so they have to then make the change because otherwise it's like if you don't have that emotional impact, there's and he does a lot of that.
There's no reason, is there, not to change, is there? Otherwise, it's got to be really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you've got to be rock bottom sometimes, haven't you?
I suppose it's like taking someone to their future.
Yeah.
And then.
Well, that's what he's doing.
That's what you should. You should look at your future and, you know, what is your future going to be like for you, Sarah, in 10 years' time, and work backwards. That's exactly what you do.
Exactly. So if you don't like what you see, then it's a case of.
How are you going to change
How are you going to change that? Yeah, it's a question. Is it ever okay to cut off toxic people just for your own well-being?
Sarah, I like that one. That one.
Absolutely, 1000% yes. And it's so detrimental to you if you don't cut them off. And I mean, most people have experiences with people that are that drag them down, that like drain your energy. They're like vampires. They literally just suck your energy. Avoid them like the plague.
Good.
Always cut them off.
Good question. Amen, sister.
It's quite, you know, if you know someone and you know that they're toxic and you know that being around them has an effect on you as well, but you just, you know.
Well, sometimes they're family, aren't they? And you've got to put up with. But I think for me, when I was going into business, the less my family knew, the better I was, because I didn't have all that prejudging. I've said this before. My mum used to say, "Who do you think you are? People like us don't do what you're doing. You know, do you think you're better than us?" And it really affected me for years and years. And it is that it starts eating away at you, doesn't it? Sometimes.
It does eat away.
Yeah.
And actually, you don't need it. You don't need it. And quite often they don't even realise they're doing that.
No.
They don't realise that it's what they're saying or what's coming out of their mouth is actually detrimental to you. They've probably got no conscious awareness of it.
Yeah.
And if they have, you definitely want to be
Yeah.
running in the opposite direction
Yeah.
as fast
I
as you
think
can.
this is really common. Sorry, I think this is really common in relationships because I've had it as well, where you know you've had a few promotions or you're getting a lot of work, and then your partner's just like, fucking hell, like she's going way ahead of me here. I think this is way more common in relationships where the woman is building herself up career wise, and the husband or the partner is just like, fucking hell, you know, she's gonna be off with someone. They're so insecure. She's gonna be off with someone else soon, someone better than me, and then they start putting that onto you, don't they? And you think, fucking hell, what's wrong with me?
I suppose it's how long do you tolerate that? Is it a case, because you know you were saying that, you know, some people may not be aware. So is it a case of where, you know, you tell them 3 or 4 times, and if they're still doing it, you think, okay, that's the cut-off point for me now, or is it maybe just a personal thing? It's a case of, well, I've told you once, and I'm not gonna say it again.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't speak your truth in an authentic way with that person, and you feel like it's not possible, then there's something not right in the relationship
to begin with.
And whether that is initially in the relationship that you have with yourself, about whether you're valuing yourself.
Stand up for yourself, yeah.
Because if you don't value yourself, you won't stand up for what you believe.
But there's adverts as well being run, isn't there, the last 2 years or so, where it's showing teenagers what's acceptable in a relationship or not. Have you seen those adverts?
No.
I think they were run. On ITV or something like that. They were run where to show.
Don't watch that propaganda show.
They were run to show teenagers what's acceptable and not in a relationship. It was a very abusive teenage guy shouting at his girlfriend, and she's just like, she thought that was normal. And it isn't until friends point things out that it's okay not to accept that. You know, you're worth more than that.
Well, a lot of the time, people grow up in families where they've witnessed parents, mums being abused mentally, phically, and emotionally. You know, like in ways that are so subtle that they've got no actual awareness.
No reason to put up with that, is there?
No.
It's just like, and you've got to know yourself as well, haven't you?
It's knowing and recognising, isn't it?
And be strong enough to stand up to your partner and say, that's not on. Please don't talk to me like that.
But then, like, you know, sometimes people, you may be in that situation, and because that's all you've known, that's what you think it should be. Exactly. So it's difficult.
And also, from a women's perspective, if there are children in the family, you know, like, and you have always been in abusive relationships, then the chances are you won't have the self-confidence, you won't believe in yourself. And so the idea of actually even removing yourself from that situation and taking your children and unsettling them from everything,
It's a huge thing.
it's massive. It is massive.
And sometimes people have to intercept for you, don't they?
Yeah.
Because they can see how toxic it's getting.
Yeah.
And take you out of that before something horrible goes wrong. I think you've got some stories like that as well, haven't you?
Like that. I could. Millions.
But I think it's really important to talk about it. I think it's really important to say to young women, you know, well, look out for your friend. If you hear of something and it's not acceptable, tell that friend, because she might not know. She might not. You know, she might have had it at home. She might have watched her mother. We are role models for our kids, aren't we?
Yeah.
Really. Donna, you got a story? Give us a story, Donna.
Give you a story. So my own experience, right? So growing up, my dad was very Victorian in his values, and he came from the position that his wife should be at home looking after children, and he was in control of everything. But I mean, his life, his father died when he was 10, and his mum had to do everything, and him and his brother and sister needed to do their part in running the family home. So he became very controlling, not because he wanted to control everything, but because because the situation needed it. Because he would say, yeah, my sister just laid on her bed all the time, and she didn't want to do anything, and my brother was out like half a daily doing whatever he was doing. Yeah. And so, you know, and his mum was working, so it all fell to him. So what we saw as controlling was him just being him.
Providing,
Yeah.
running the show,
And the other thing in that was, you know, I lived in social housing. We lived in a flat or a masonette in Swanley, and the people upstairs from us, the husband was regularly physically hurting the wife, and we could hear all of that going on. And he was an alcoholic, and he, you know, like, because we slept on the top, we could hear what was going on upstairs, and it was always, you know, like he was constantly being arrested.
Wow. You must have felt as though you were living that as well, because you were hearing that and going through it.
Yeah, so it was like, for me, as when I started to date boyfriends, I was dating boyfriends that were controlling, that were abusive, that were violent,
without even knowing that's what
I
you
had
attracted.
no awareness of that at the time. But yeah, so I had a partner who actually tried to kill me, and then
To kill you?
Yeah, he tried to strangle me, and I just got to a point where I was actually, I don't want to live like this anymore. I'm done. It's over.
How do you
so
go?
yeah, he's literally, I was like,
bloody hell.
Like,
How do
it
you
was
go
just
one day and just go, right, okay, I've had enough of this? Because he's not rational, is he?
No.
How do you stop that? How do you go from one day being strangled and then the next day going, I'm not going to put up with this anymore? Because he's not going to listen to that shit.
No. So because we had quite a violent relationship, you know, was constantly fighting. We'd got 2 young children. He would never let them in his car. He just wouldn't. There were so many things, like money was. I worked in old people's home. Even then, I worked nights, and to go to work, I would have to get my mum to come over and babysit, because he would purposely go out and not be there for when I needed to go to work. Until he realised that manipulation wasn't gonna work. So then he stopped doing it. But so I used to have to keep trying to find ways that I could still carry on doing that, and he couldn't control me with money. So he tried to strangle me, and I just said, like, I'm done. We're like, just hurry up, get it over, just do it quickly. So that shocked him so much that he just got up.
Wow.
He said to our 2 boys at the time, he said,
This was in your home?
yeah, it was in our home. He said to the boys, he made his lunch, said to the boys, like sitting at the bottom of the stairs, goodbye, I'm never going to see you again, and walked out the door. And I just, because we'd had so many arguments, so many.
That was like
it was like a normal.
Yeah.
It was just like a normal occurrence. So I didn't think nothing more of it. But because he didn't come back at 5 in the afternoon, I phoned my mum and said, "Can you come and sit with the boys?" Because I was working that night. And then, like, it was about midnight, the police came to where I was working. It was an old people's home in Wilmington, which isn't there now, it's a housing estate. And they said that he'd committed suicide in his mum's garage.
Oh, bloody hell.
So it's just like, so it was carbon monoxide poisoning.
Wow.
But yeah, so there was a big.
His life must have been absolutely terrible. To what condition do you have to be in to be able to go to a garage and know that you're going to kill yourself, leaving behind the mess of your marriage, the family, you're in your mum's house.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a mess. All the psychiatrists and all that, like, we had loads of counselling, therapy, God knows what else after. And they said that one of the reasons that he chose his mum's garage to do it was like saying, it's your fault, this is you're the cause
The
of
mum.
it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But he had grown up. His mum and his sister had consistently taken overdoses and then used it as a manipulation tool. So he'd done that to me before.
Yeah.
So when I was pregnant with my eldest, he'll be 40 next August.
Wow.
So I was pregnant with him, and he cleared out the flat that we lived in Gravesend. He just like he literally emptied the whole flat out, and none of it was his. It was all my furniture, all my like everything.
You mean empty, like got rid of?
No, we just cleared it out. Yeah, the whole thing, and left me one tea bag, and I was like 8 months pregnant with Joe.
Oh,
It was like,
I know it's a horrible ending, but
but
well, you couldn't have stayed with him, could
no.
you?
But the thing was, I tolerated a lot of that language because I didn't have any self-belief. I didn't believe in myself. I had very low self-confidence, which is all, a lot of that is due to, growing up in how I did.
Yeah. So what happened after that? You had the funeral for him, and
yeah, so we had the funeral, and then I moved, and
started again.
Yeah, just started again.
Wow. And where do you go from there? What do you start doing career-wise?
Well, from there, I carried on working nights, working in the old people's home, and also I used to work in a pub doing just bar work. And then one of the mums at the school had said to me about a training course for women to get them into the construction industry. So it was a free a free 12-month course that was funded by we had the European Social Fund then, and I did that. So I was working nights, taking the kids to school, going to college during the day, coming home, cooking dinner, doing all those things.
Such a strong woman, Donna, because that takes a lot of strength to do that as well. I know it's for your kids, that's your why, isn't it?
Yeah,
you've got those kids to look after as well, but also to take you to that next place of, you can't, there's only so long you can sustain that sort of lifestyle, isn't there?
Yeah, and the reason I do what I do now is because I know how hard life can be for women, and I know what women go through, and men as well. I know what they go through. I've done so much of my own personal development, my own journey has been like up and down, like a yo-yo. So it's like I've experienced trauma, I've experienced a lot of negative events, but actually the resilience comes from knowing who you are.
Yeah, and I think a lot of women know that there is this strength that you can pull on, and until you don't know it until you're tested, though, do you?
No, that's a really good point, because with so an aeroplane takes off against the it doesn't have the wind behind it to take off. It takes off into the wind always, and if we don't have a certain level of resistance or a certain level of friction, then we never evolve and things never change, because we just become complacent in our, we just get up and just do what we need to do to get through the day. You just carry on, and it's like, actually, unless you have something that quite literally just shakes you out of your tree, like I've had recently. Do you know what I mean?
But I think that's the getting out of your state, isn't it? That absolutely changed your state, didn't it?
Yeah.
You can't live like that for very long, and for that to end like that, that's shaking you out of your state, isn't it?
I mean, we get so comfortable with the status quo, and just how things are, and you just get up and you just do the things, and it's so much easier to just avoid even looking at it. So much easier.
Yeah. But I think we know a lot of people as well, so don't we? In that it's easy to put up with. And it's easy to stay with the partner, knowing that it's wrong, knowing that it's because it's easy, it's comfortable, you know what you're going to expect, and it's much harder to take yourself out of your current situation. It's like you say, go against the grain and go against the wind to launch yourself somewhere else.
Yeah,
but we're strong. A lot of this stuff that we're talking about, it happens to men as well. It's not just women.
Yeah. But I think you've got to be. It's like with anything, you've got to want to do it as well. It's a bit like, if you smoked and you want to give up smoking. I mean, I used to smoke years ago.
So did I.
And I think I was ready to give up by the time I actually gave up, and I had one session of hypnosis, and that was it for me. So I think you've got to want to. That's part.
And your
of
friends can't change that, can they?
No. As much as people will say,
you
it's
must.
Not,
It'll
exactly.
be good for you.
It's the desire, and actually that's the one thing that in all the spiritual texts and everything, they all talk about desire and how it's having the desire is the driving force for everything.
But for me as well, it's passion. You know, a lot of the stuff that we do in business, that we do in business networking as well, is I've got to have passion behind me. I've just got to, it's got to be in me to want to be able to do it. It's drive, and I think there's a lot of bloody mindedness for me as well. Someone keeps telling me women can't do this, and do you think you can do that? And it's just like, I can show you. It's
And I've always been like that as well.
Yeah.
You know, like when someone has said to me, "You can't do that," I'm like,
yeah. Oh, I love that.
"Fucking watch me."
Yes, I love that too. Yeah, keep telling me, come on, because you feed off of that, don't you?
Yeah. I've always been a bit that way inclined.
What's your take and role in spirituality on someone's personal growth?
Okay, so first of all, there's a massive difference between religion and spirituality. Religion is like you've got Christianity, Muslim, and all of that. And spirituality transcends all of that. It's a completely different thing. And their spirituality is what I believe our culture is missing. Because when people are connected to themselves, they are then able to connect to their environment and the natural surroundings. It's the lacking of spirituality, which is nothing to do with religion, is why our planet is in the state it's in.
I think I'm quite a spiritual person as well. I think I know I'm connected to it, and I know there's a higher self than me, because I just feel it, and I just see it everywhere. But it is. I think it's very true that it is very, very different from being religious, and you know, we see enough of them on the high street standing with their Bibles spouting God, which means nothing to me.
God is an interesting word, because so many people find the word God offensive. But actually, I take it as an acronym. So the God is the grand overall designer.
That's
and
a
it's
really good
the
one.
whole, you know, like there is something greater than us.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I
you
do
would
believe
not
that.
experience synchronicities. There is something. And whatever that energy is the energy of all of creation.
Well, this is getting really deep.
It will get really
We
deep.
need like vodka or booze now, don't we? This
And
is quite
so
deep.
when we connect to our own essence, we connect to our higher self and our connection to whatever that is. And some people call it Akashic Records, some people call it God, some people call it whatever, you know, source, create, you know, like that. And that is the creative impulse of all of life. That's my view.
I know when some of us come up against really bad situations, we all know what the best route is and what we should be doing. We just like to go and ask everyone else, but we really know. And that for me is that you know what you should do lots of the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, most of the time.
Well,
Yeah.
to a point, but some people don't. So that comfort of
Well, they're not listening for it,
whether
then, are
they're,
they?
you know, whether
They're
they're
choosing
gonna,
not to listen to that.
yeah, but they might, you know, their way of finding the answer is, you know, I will say a prayer, and for guidance,
Yes.
and for a lot of people,
Well, do a vision board and wish for it.
Actually, the prayer,
Yeah.
right? So prayer is something that a lot of people do and don't realise they're doing it. And it's like, so when we make a vision board, you're actually making a prayer.
right, yeah,
And because a lot of the time I work shamanically, which really just means I work with the environment and what's happening around me. And the prayer to the Creator is being grateful for absolutely everything that you have, everything that you are. And, you know, like, and Bob Proctor always says, you know, like in his teachings, like we are God, he says we are God's highest form of creation. We're the own, you know, like stones and rocks and all of that. They've all got their own energy, which is why, you know, crystals and
They all resonate on different
everything,
vibrations, don't
yeah.
they? Yeah.
So, you know, like when every thought that we have is a prayer to that creative force, whatever we call it, God, source, whatever. And so most of the time people are sending out prayers which are their thoughts to the creator and creating from a standpoint of, oh, I don't want this to happen, I don't want that to happen. So because they're going from that negative and it doesn't recognise the don't aspect, they get more of that. And so they don't pray at the right time. So they wait until the shit's hit the fan to pray, and that's not when they need to do it. They need to do it all the time, but from a perspective of, I'm so grateful for how my life is now, and then bring in whatever else they need or want.
I've got a curveball for you now. How would you address the critics that say that life coaches are too unrealistic? You know, life's just not like that. You know, you can listen to everything, but it's just like, I can't do that, and my life isn't like that.
Try it.
Yeah.
I'd say try it.
No, is it?
Come and see me.
Is it unrealistic to believe that could cure and change your life by going with a life coach? You know, what do you actually bring to the table for these people?
It's a really good question. So in terms of the, I don't believe that it's possible. You know, a life coach can work with someone to help them understand what is stopping them from believing that it's possible for them to have whatever it is that they desire for their life. I mean, there are obvious things in terms of what people couldn't achieve. You know, like, it's no good saying I want £1 million tomorrow, because it's not going to happen, not even in anyone's dreams. Do you know what I mean? It's just not. So there has to be some reasonableness about what. But in general, you can have, be and do whatever you choose, as long as you do the work. Yeah. So you can't just sit there and say, move this mountain, because it ain't going to happen, right? You have to do the work.
Yeah. And I think that's the same for lots of us in business. It's, you know, I want to get to, you know, £1 million turnover, but how do I do that? But you can break it down into 12 monthly chunks of what you've got to get to. And I think a lot of the life coaching, a lot of the business coaching is like that, isn't it? It's just break it down
into the nitty gritty. So
and what are you prepared to do each day?
Yeah. And so that makes it all trackable. Yeah. And because it's measurable, trackable, it you can see what you're doing, whether it's getting you the results or not.
Yeah. Are there some people that are just not life coachable?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, there are. There are people who
it's just not for them.
Yeah. I have had people who, like, every time they set a goal, they are not prepared to do the work. Yeah. You have to do the inner work as well. It's not just the physical things. You've got to do change what's in here. And for a lot of people, if they're stuck up here, I mean, I tend to now, I mean, in the early days, I would have just stopped working with people and internalised it as I was doing something wrong. But actually now, what I do is I usually find that what stops some people is completely unconscious, and they can't get to what the problem is. So what I do is take them through breath work, and take them through breath work first, and then that unhooks. So I always say it's like, breath work is a bit like having, you know, like the fishing hooks, the really long ones that have got all the barbs on. And it's like having one of them, and all our traumas and all our negative events that we've had over the years all get stuck on those barbs. And what breathwork can do is help them to unhook all those things and smooth out that hook.
And people tell themselves that story, don't they?
Yeah,
they believe their stories.
Part of their identity.
Yeah.
So if someone was thinking about your services, for example, so I want a life coach, what would you say to that person thinking about a life coach? I know you said they need to be open to it, but what would they need to bring to you to allow you to help them as such? Does that make sense? It does make sense.
Initially, we'd have a conversation. I would want to understand more about what they want. What do they actually want to do? Because there's no...
What's their outcome?
Yeah, there's no inspiration in just doing things that just for the sake of doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I need to know what is driving them, what's their
why?
Yeah, what's their why, what's their, you know, what are they passionate about, and getting to the point where, you know, they also understand their purpose and then we can do I can bring, I've got a massive tool bag
tools,
now, and I can just bring in the different tools to help them just align their selves, because without this being aligned with this, the body doesn't.
And I think it can take, I think for a lot of women, you can go through a lot of careers and then suddenly get to like the last, you know, I'm 54 now, and I think everything that I've done has led up to now. But I'm meant to be here, so I'm in the right place where I'm meant to be to help women get to where they need to be. But it's taken, you can feel as though that it's been errors along the way, or that didn't work out. But sometimes you can be exactly where you're meant to be now, can't you?
Yeah,
and it all went to plan.
Yeah, and I think most people know if they would benefit from having a life coach. And also, I think it's important to get someone that you actually connect with, someone that can share and be your most vulnerable. Because I think if the relationship is guarded in any way, then it's the results won't be what you
and
want.
You've got to be honest, haven't you? You've got to be honest with yourself, and you've got to be honest. If you're going to help someone, you'd hope that they tell you the truth and tell you everything, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Not hold back.
It's really interesting, because for a long time I didn't really want to go down and call myself a life coach, mainly because it was in terms of, like, because I do breath work as well, and use that as a way of helping people to align their head with their heart, basically, so that they can be more on purpose. The life coach aspect of it initially seemed really superficial, and because it didn't feel like it was doing such deep work. Do you know what I mean? When we've experienced a lot of negative events in the past, or you know, been through a lot of traumas, it is difficult to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes
you're letting it out of the box again, aren't you?
And you know, like when you go, so I'd actually, from a coaching perspective, I don't necessarily want people to tell me all about their story or the identity that they've got at the moment. It's more focusing on where we're going, and then we start to unhook the negative aspects and to be able
more
to
outcome driven.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask. Should life coaches be regulated? Are they regulated?
Interesting one. They're not regulated. I'm not really sure whether they should or shouldn't be. I think
because it's your life experiences as well that you bring to the table that help those other people, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's enough people on the planet and coaches. Do you know what I mean? It's like I think we need to.
A lot of stuff you can't train for, can you?
No,
you can't train for someone strangling you and what you do after that and how you come out of that.
Yeah. So I'd have to sit on the fence on that one.
Yeah. Wow.
Would some people say that they might liken a life coach like a therapist? It's kind of like therapy in a way.
British aren't used to therapy though, are they? It's a very American thing, isn't it? I'm going to go see my therapist.
Yeah.
A bit more now, people are.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people talk about their mental health and looking after their mental health more now than they've ever done in the past. I think it's much more acceptable to say, you know, like,
I need help.
I need help now. And not all life coaches would be able to cope with dealing with some of the stuff
that someone's going to come out with.
Yeah. And so I think there needs to be a certain level of awareness and understanding, and I do think that coaches need to do work on themselves. They need to be just as committed to working on themselves as they are to working with clients, because
Yeah.
otherwise it could.
Well, can you imagine, you've gone down that road of taking someone out of lifting the lid of that box, and then how does that therapist or life coach deal with what that person's telling you? You could end up fucking their heads even more, couldn't you? It's,
absolutely, and there are a lot of therapists that do that already.
yeah. Wow.
There's enough therapists to keep people in therapy for tens of years, for just because they need them keep coming back.
Well, it's the same with like antidepressants and stuff like that, isn't it? It's just like you're not addressing the problem.
Yeah, the core
You're just making it soft and fuzzy that you stay in that same state. But I agree with you. It's taking yourself out of that state, isn't it?
Yeah.
And dealing with going back to absolute raw bottom of why you need antidepressants and things like that.
Yeah, the core wounding always needs addressing, and that can be addressed somatically, which means physically through the body. Because we don't only carry the events that happen to us, we sometimes carry the events that happen to our parents. So I had a client whose grandparents were involved in the Holocaust, and one of the biggest things that they experienced after working with me was they experienced more joy in life. And what they hadn't realised or connected was that growing up, their own parents, who were the children of the Holocaust survivors, that their house was always dark. It was always, everything was always felt heavy because they had, I suppose they felt bad because they'd survived and the others hadn't. So subsequently, they never did really fun things because they all felt bad and felt guilty. So they carried that through their life. And the person that I worked with, who was in their late 60s at the time, who was the grandchild, they were just like, after working with them, they were like, I feel so light and like
free.
They had a wicked sense of humour. It was like so funny, but they were really dry, and most of the time they were always really
suppressing your personality, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've seen a massive change in them, and I see them regularly.
Good
and
for you, Donna.
like, yeah, amazing.
How many sessions? If someone came to you, how many sessions? What's kind of like the average number of sessions that you may have with a client? Does it just all depend?
It's totally depends on the person. So I've got programs that I work with as well. They're fixed. So I do a 12-week program and I do a 6-month one. But I also work intuitively with people. So we book a 3, a 6 or a 9 session packages, so that it makes it very clear for them. This is how long we've got to work together, and then once we get to the end of this, we'll reassess the results. And the way you're getting. Although we assess as we go along, we're like, I don't want to take people's money without helping them get the results. And if it's not working out, do you know what I mean? It's like if they're just not doing the work, then
I think lots of us should be doing that with lots of our clients, shouldn't we? Not just there to take the money. It's just like if you're not helping them, you have to stop that process, don't you? Can you give us a life-changing piece of advice? If people can't get on your course, and we will give people the details of that shortly, if they can't get on your course, is there something a tip that you could give people to help them change their life?
There is. So there's a really good visualization process that I was taught by Bob Proctor, and he talks about the stick person. In all his trainings, he talks about the stick person, and it's simply that. So if you imagine 2 circles, so you've got a bigger circle, which is the head, and then a smaller circle, which is the body, and then you join it with the neck and put the arms and legs on. And if you drew a line horizontally through the head, and you imagined that this circle is on your own face, and you've got the line through, and you've got your conscious mind, which is like our thinking mind. It's the mind that we use to make decisions. We can think up new ideas. And then we've got our subconscious mind. So if you imagine that is the part at the bottom, and we have to, any good ideas that we have or anything that we want to change, we have to take that idea and embed it into our subconscious mind, which is the emotional mind. And it's our emotional mind, part of our mind, that drives our body and drives our results. So as we then allow that to become really embedded, our results actually physically change. So the way to do that would be, do you want to do it now?
Yeah, go on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you just sit up straight, feet on the floor, hands just resting, not crossing you up, but just resting. So if you just shut your eyes, take a deep breath in and let it go. Take another deep breath in and let it go. So if you imagine that stick person and imagine it overlaid over your own body. So you've got the circle for the head and it's got the line through it. So
Is our body one allowed to be bigger than our head?
No. Not for you can. You're all right, you don't need to do that. So if you just imagine, so in the top part, your conscious mind, your thinking mind, bring in an idea, a thought about what you would like to do or feel or be. So if you get that clear in your mind, whatever that is. So if you just imagine that horizontal line that's running through your head, if you just imagine that idea of what you want to be or do or have, it's just trickling down through that horizontal line, and it's coming down into your subconscious mind, into your emotional mind. And
so just to be clear, the circle is here, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the line is through here?
Yeah, it's sort of
Okay, so
high.
I'm thinking it up here and I'm bringing it down to the bottom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're bringing it down into the subconscious
The bottom
mind.
half of the circle, yeah?
Yeah. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to radiate that through the entire body, all the way down to your feet. So that feeling or idea, so imagine it's going now into every cell, every atom, every fibre of your being, all the way down to the tips of your fingers and the tips of your toes. Just imagine like how you would move your body if you achieve whatever it is that you thought about. What would you be doing?
Standing straighter.
What actions would you be taking? What insights do you need to be able to implement those actions? And as you take another deep breath in and let it go, take another deep breath in, and on the next out breath just let it all go, let all the ideas and everything else, just let it all go. And then when you're ready, just come back into the room, back into this space, opening your eyes.
I need to know what you're thinking. What did you think?
I want to be smaller.
Oh, did you? Oh. Well, you were a big circle as well on the bottom. Mine was, I know that we will help. By the time I die, I know we will help over 1 million women. And that's really powerful to come through my head and then through my body. Yeah, that's my goal.
Brilliant.
Mine was
Yours was quite selfish.
Yours
though,
was
wasn't it?
selfish.
Yours was a very personal
a very
goal.
personal one. Yes,
Nice.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that either. It's like, however, it's
exactly. That was the of the moment. Yes.
yeah, the stick person. It was designed by a doctor called Thurman Flea in 1934.
Wow.
So it's not a new concept, but it's was designed to bring order to the mind. So often we're in like a coach or even people say change your attitude, just think of this, think of that, and we've got no pattern for it in our bodies.
So I
Because
quite
we've got
like,
no
I quite
pattern.
like that it was this, like a coffee filter. For me, my head was a circle, and when we put the coffee on in the meeting rooms, it was like a coffee filter of a line, and it was like trickling through, because your head can get quite messed up if you don't. I dream loads of stuff, and I'm just like, what I want to achieve, what I want to do with you guys, and it can be quite overwhelming, can't it? You've got all this in your head, you've got all the stuff that you need to do that day, and it can be, it's all in my head. So it becomes.
You write it down.
Oh,
Journal.
I'm a
Journal.
journal.
Write it
girl.
down.
Yeah.
Do you journal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do books and books, and I've got books going over the last 20 years of being in business. 26, well, 35 years of being in business, but last 26 years of being self-employed, and it's interesting to go back through those books because lots of stuff hasn't changed. It's still those goals too. They've stayed strong. But I quite like that idea of like filtering it through, because it's quite a nice relaxing. You're going to make this come into your body.
Because it's only when it's in our body can we actually physically take action. All the time it's up here, we can't take action because we've got no pattern for it.
I love that. How do you feel?
So,
Are you going to get smaller?
Yes, watch this space.
Good for you. Go on, Sarah,
So I've got a question. Yes. What's the most significant life lesson you've learned in your journey as a life coach?
Be yourself. Don't try and be anyone else. Don't copy anyone else. Just be yourself. Because otherwise you just end up in your head just trying to be all things to all people, and you end up being nothing. And it's just like,
people try and suppress personalities as well, don't they? Oh, I'm gonna have trouble working with you, and it's like you can go down a route of like you say, suppressing it and trying to be quiet. I'm never gonna be quiet.
Making yourself small, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't want to be
and
small.
you hide. What gifts are you hiding? Just because you don't want other people to see them. Because you get found out.
Or maybe part of it is, are people going to appreciate what you have to offer?
Who gives a
Who gives?
fuck?
But
I
like that.
But
who cares?
Yeah, but maybe
Just share it. Share it anyway.
Maybe people have had situations or
they've not
life
been around the right people
experiences where they don't want to show that. So I'm coming from another side. I know of people that are like that. So it's be yourself is
I think sometimes we get so stuck in our head.
trying to do the right thing.
That
Yes.
is probably the
It
killer
holds
of
so many women back, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
trying to do the right thing. I've got to look after the kids. I can't go to work.
I don't want to upset the in-laws. I don't want to upset the partner.
No, don't stop it now.
Or trying to please everybody. Like trying to please everyone, and you don't get to do exactly what you want to
Do you know that on an aeroplane, right, what's the first thing they tell you to do in the safety
Put
briefing?
your own mask on.
You're no good to anybody otherwise.
You're selfish.
It's not being. There's a difference between being selfish and self-aware, and even like we call teenagers a lot of the time. We call them selfish or self-absorbed or whatever, right? But the fact is that we need to look after ourselves.
Of course.
As a mother, as a wife, as a daughter. Do you know what I mean? Whatever the role, businesswoman, any of those roles, we need to look after ourselves. Because otherwise, you're no good to anybody.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I always felt that I couldn't be selfish with a lot of things. But as I've gotten older, I'm selfish with my time. Need to be.
It's not. I think it's value. Do you value yourself? And I think the older we get, the more we put value on on ourselves, on our ability, on our knowledge, on our awareness, on
our tolerance.
I'm
a lot less tolerant now than what I used to be.
known Sarah for about 21, 22 years. But I think you have stayed. You stayed true to yourself. You
I
have.
try to, as best I can.
You're very grounded though. You're very,
She's my voice of reason. I'm like come on, 100 miles an hour. Like, come on, slow down a little bit.
Do you know the wealth dynamics profiling system? So it's a profiling system for entrepreneurs, and you're very much creator energy, and you're very much tempo energy. So what that means is that you make what she says happen.
That's
Basically.
exactly, no, that's
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
how we are in business.
Yeah.
We run two different businesses side by side, and that's exactly what it is. It's I've got no qualms about being cheeky, going and making things happen. I'm the red. Quick answers. Sarah will like to take. No, let's slow down a little bit. We've got something that's going to happen next week, and Sarah's like, "Dad, like, fuck, we're going to answer that on Monday. Make him wait till Tuesday or Wednesday." I'm just like, "Oh, but I like to get stuff off." Yeah, of course we can do that. But a lot of the stuff that we do as well, it's learning as you get older to say no to things, isn't it? It's you can't be pleasing people all the time, and you've got to please yourself sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that refers back to, you know,
Yeah.
you said that your previous partner
Yeah,
that committed. If that happened now,
If it had told you,
now that you're a life coach,
Yeah.
and you, how
Do you know what I'd say? If they said, I'm going to kill myself, I'd say, go on then. I would actually say, okay, fine.
my first boyfriend did do that to me. And my dad, he was like screaming down the phone, and my dad just got the phone off him. I was crying my eyes out because I was just like, "Dad, he's going to kill himself." And he put the phone off him and he went, "Fucking do it, give us all a break and fucking do it." And then he put the phone down, and I was just like, "Oh my god, I couldn't live with myself." And I was just like, "Dad, this guy's going to be dead." He wasn't. He was going out the next day and putting his clothes on and going out clubbing and stuff. But it's a huge thing over you to have someone say that. You know. So what do you do in that instance? If someone does threaten, you know, we're at the age we are now. If someone does threaten that, what would you advise?
They need psychiatric help, to be honest.
Yeah.
They do need psychiatric help, or send them to Tony Robbins.
What,
I don't
who,
want to do with it.
who do you contact? Do you who do you
there
go and
are-
tell? Because I would take that on
GP.
my conscience.
Yeah.
You know, if someone had texted me,
I don't have that issue.
do you not?
No. So my view, right, and it could be controversial, but my view is that we're all adults, right?
Yeah.
And every adult has the choice.
Responsible for your own self.
Yeah, has the choice to live or to die.
Yeah.
Right, and to choose that if they wish, and if they are trying to use it as a manipulation tool, which is what Alan was doing. He was trying to manipulate me into feeling sorry for him, and I was like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not having it.
Yeah.
You're not, like, if you want to kill yourself, kill yourself.
Yeah.
Like I'm not in that space anymore. I'm not. You're not going to manipulate me in that way.
But let's say the person hasn't done anything bad to you.
Yeah.
So in that way, it's just a case of you want to break up with the person because it's just not working out. It's not who you want to be with. But they say, you know, I can't live without you. How they haven't done anything bad to you. So how would you? Yeah, how would you help that person? What would be the correct way?
Can you?
No. I think the resilience has to come from within the person. The you would, as the person that's being manipulated, because it is manipulation.
Yeah.
If someone says I can't live with you, and if you go, then I'm going to kill myself. Then what they're actually saying is, like, I'm going to try to control your behaviour.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is to direct them to the care services, because they need psychiatric help, and you need to run as fast as you can out of there.
Who would you let know if someone's saying that to you? You know, they're mentally a bit unstable now, aren't they?
Yeah,
if
they
got
are.
to that stage.
Yeah, they are mentally unstable.
Should you
So
phone someone? Is it the police? Is it
phone the GP and go? You know, but they may not see it as that. They may just be manipulative. You know, you've got enough narcissistic people in the world that use suicide.
But I really, when it
of
happened to me when I was
controlling
18, 19, I really had it on my conscience of, what if this person says they're going to kill themselves and they do it? Am I going to be in trouble? You know, should I have reported it? Should I have tried to get them help before they do it?
Did that person have family?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were they aware of that?
No, and I didn't say anything to them either, so I felt as though I was a bit, you know, as if I didn't help enough. But I think it was just a threat back then. And I didn't know any better. I was 18, 19. It's, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it with my first partner, you know, like I mean, he'd taken overdoses before, but he'd taken his mum's laxatives.
Oh, hands on an overdose.
But he didn't realise. He just went to the medicine cabinet and picked up loads of pills and took the pills.
Oh, no.
But that was a manipulation tool that he'd been taught by his mother.
Model, yeah.
And her mother was the same, but they actually were bipolar, so they used it as a way of controlling the world around them.
Wow.
So they needed proper therapeutic counselling interventions.
Well, I'm sure this goes on still, doesn't it? In relationships, when you are our age, we're all like 40s and 50s now. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that now? It's very different being in your 20s, and a lot of people will be listening to us in their early 20s, and that's where you're learning yourself how to deal with stuff. And I know that we do grow as we get older. But what should you do in your 40s, 50s and 60s if someone is saying that to you? It's, should you still go and report it?
I would speak to your own GP, and certainly don't let them give you antidepressants.
Yeah, well, it's not your fault.
Happens,
either, is it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot. I've seen that a lot, where people have gone to the GP because they're not happy in their relationship, rather than dealing with their personal relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, it all starts with, do you love you?
Yes.
How much do you love you?
Yeah.
And because if we're allowing ourselves to be manipulated by other people, then we don't value ourselves.
Yeah, and I think you learn that as you get older, don't you? It is that, and that's when you start standing up for yourself more. I deserve more than this. I'm better than than this.
Yeah.
So what is a key point to start loving yourself when you're even a teenager, that you get bullied or people in your family don't look at you the same way as your sister or your siblings? Like, how do you start loving yourself? What's the key?
But I think it takes someone to say to you, doesn't it? You look out for your friends, look out for your family, look out for your mum.
But personally, my siblings, let's say, is telling me, oh, you're worth it. That didn't help me until I started reading personal development books. So for my own personal experiences, but any other person, like let's say younger, you can't say go.
Would you have listened to a friend if a friend had said that to you? This really isn't healthy. You need to get out of this relationship, or.
No, about loving yourself, not relationship wise.
But a friend can notice that. A friend can say to you, can't they? I don't. You are worth more than this. You are much better.
But I think that those words don't really. It's just words.
But I think you've also got to want to change, haven't you?
Yeah, you have got to want to change.
Yeah.
But do you know what I would suggest is doing initially what's called somatic work. So breath work and so Peter Levine, he does a lot of somatic work, and there's lots of things that we can do physically to embody self-love and self-awareness, and becoming aware of the thoughts that we're thinking consistently is the first step. Because when we become aware of the thoughts that we're having, if we're having thoughts of, like, basically, if you're beating yourself up and berating yourself, like, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, or you stupid cow, or whatever, and we do.
And we're all
we
harsh
do
to each
it,
other.
yeah. And we're
are
so
our harshest
harsh
critic.
on ourselves.
Yeah.
So when we become aware of that, that's the point at which you can start to change the talk that goes on up here, right? And start to look at where did that come from? So are those thoughts my own thoughts, or is that what I've heard in the environment around me? Because once we start to stop listening to all the external shit chat, as I call it, and start to actually listen to what's going on in here, we can start to then change it.
And that's what I'm saying. You normally know yourself if something's wrong or right, or how it feels to you, because you're saying it to yourself in your head. You're talking to yourself all the time, aren't we?
Yeah, it never stops.
Yeah.
which actually that brings me back to meditation. Actually, I consistently have people ask me about meditation, and
I just
they
can't do it
say
for me.
they can't do it,
I
right?
can't do it.
And
Yeah.
actually, you can do it,
Yeah.
but
I've got
what
time.
is your image of meditation?
Sitting in front on the floor, legs crossed. I don't really
The
like crossing my legs.
stereotypical.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't
Um,
even cross my legs anymore.
yeah.
But,
But you're sitting there. I don't like stopping, so it's
Yeah.
really hard for me
but you know, you
to
don't.
sit there.
You
and
don't
do
have
that.
to do that to meditate. You don't have
But
to.
that's the image of people.
Yeah,
It's,
but that's what I'm saying. It's
I
like,
can't not
so,
think of anything. The to-do list is way too big in my head.
So, a practice, right? When you got a dishwasher?
Yeah.
Right. So when you load your dishwasher,
Yeah,
only think about loading the dishwasher.
yeah.
Right. Don't think about anything else.
But I'm
That's a
normally
meditation.
like cooking. I'm singing.
Yeah,
I'm
but
doing
it's
other
that,
things as well as because we multitask all the time, don't we?
Yeah, but it's that being
Yeah.
present.
Doing
So,
single
one
items
single
then.
thing, yeah.
Single- yeah.
So like there are activities that we do that we're doing them, and our heads are
Yeah.
somewhere else,
Yes.
and they're not
Yeah.
on the task. So we might be cooking the dinner, but we're thinking about the thing that
Yeah,
what am I
yeah.
going to wear tomorrow
Yeah.
when I go out? Do you know what I mean?
The only thing
So
that I'm
when
good
you're-
at is when I'm having sex. I'm in the moment. That's the only thing that
That's
I'm
the,
not.
everyone's the same. Everyone's
That's
the
the only
same.
thing that I'm not. Oh, I really must do that ceiling.
Unless
or
it's so
what's
bad.
that?
And then
That's the only time I'm concentrating. No, right. So Donna Still of Donna Still Coaching. What are your courses? What are you here to promote today?
Well, I've got quite a few different things. So I've got. I'm going to relaunch Reclaim Your Radiance, which is a 15-day, 15-minute meditation course.
I think I might have to go on that one.
And it's
I don't have to sit in front of
literally
the window,
no,
sit on
you
the floor.
don't. You can do it like a lot of people. When I recorded them originally, they were 15 minutes in the morning to start the day, and it was literally, like sitting.
So I'm getting up 15 minutes earlier, am I?
Yeah.
Earlier.
Yeah. So it's just like I recorded them at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it was just like for 15 minutes, and it was literally just taking you through a process
So am I listening?
Yeah, so you're just listening.
Oh, okay.
So you just
So
sit
you
in.
can lay in bed, can you?
Yeah, you can lay in bed. So
Yeah.
there's quite a few people that used to listen to them before they went to sleep.
Okay, nice.
So
Yeah, I can do
it's
that.
just like 15
Yeah.
minutes,
Yeah.
and it's not. It's not rocket science, but
Yeah.
it's like guided. It's guided
Yeah.
all the way
So
through.
we sign on to a course with that with you.
Yeah, so it's so you get the recording each day for
Yeah.
15 days. There's
So
two
you send us
series.
a different recording.
Yeah,
do you? Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you can go online. I need to
Yeah.
finish off my website. It's
do
like at the moment it's still like work in progress.
No, that's
but-
okay. We're all work in progress.
and then I offer coaching packages, which is either a 3-session, a 6-session, or a 9-session,
Nice.
which is like completely intuitive coaching where I bring all my different tools. We have that initial discussion, and then we work out what a plan for the sessions that you've booked,
Yeah.
based on whatever it is that you want to achieve. And the other two things I work with. Bob Proctor material, and I've got the new Lead the Field, which I am trained to facilitate, and a program called Thinking into Results. So the new Lead the Field is 12 weeks, and it's a very structured program, life changing, and the Thinking into Results is a 6-month program and of 12 modules. So,
Yeah, lovely.
Amazing.
So
They're
if we
amazing
put the
programs.
link in our podcast as well,
Yeah.
if you click onto the QR code, that will take you through. If you put your details on there, we can pass those on to Donna. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you for coming in, Donna.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Donna.
It's been a
Brilliant.
pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
High five, ladies. Go
Yeah.
on.